Avoiding defeat. That's the focus of tonight's angle. There's no other way to say it. It was a clown show on Capitol Hill today. The same people who've been wrong about pretty much every major foreign policy issue for the past 25 years are back at it again. Today, Blinken and Austin testified before Congress, asking for another $106 billion for multiple urgent priorities: Ukraine, Israel, something in the Far East, and humanitarian aid to Gaza. They call it an emergency supplemental. But the real emergency is in Biden's reelection campaign, which is taking on more water than Biden's taking naps.
Stop supporting the genocide and ethnic of the people of Gaza.
Shame on you all. The world is calling for a ceasefire.
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
Now, this, by the way, went on and on and on. So much for that unbreakable Biden coalition. Now, this is where most normal people, though, are asking how it makes any sense for the U.S. to go further into debt to pay for these emergencies when we already have $33 trillion that we're going to have to pay off, and last fiscal year, a staggering $1.7 trillion budget deficit. This is their answer.
This supplemental doesn't just help meet today's urgent challenges. It also invests in our defense industrial base. When we send our friends munitions from our stockpiles, the money to replenish our supplies strengthens our military readiness, and we invest in American industry and American workers.
Okay. This is mind-blowing. Deplete our own stockpiles by sending weapons to, sadly, a losing cause in Ukraine, then spend more money to replenish the stockpiles, which will help the defense contractors. They really do think you're stupid. Well, the way things are going now in Ukraine, we should just have the Pentagon send weapons directly to Russia, because they're going to end up taking them eventually anyway, just like they did, of course, the Taliban in Afghanistan. Now, the fact is, even the staunchest war hawks can no longer make a persuasive case for Ukraine. This is the main reason, by the way, why they want to combine the $61.4 billion request for Ukraine with the funding request for legitimate reasons like Israel and elsewhere.
Why is it so important that we provide supplemental funding for Ukraine, the Indo-Pacific, and humanitarian assistance in addition to military aid to Israel?
The defense industrial base operates in a complex way. It's an interdependent unit. Making these investments together allows us to do what's needed to strengthen the defense industrial base and to seize the benefits and efficiencies that come from making these investments together.
It's words signifying nothing. It's more efficient, he says, to get all this money at one time. I bet it is. Now, the truth is, they don't want senators like Joe Manchin or John Tester, who are facing really tough re-election bids, to be forced to vote on a Ukraine standalone. If the Biden team was serious about our defense industrial base, by the way, they wouldn't be sucking up to China, whose entire goal is to undermine our industrial base. Oh, and don't forget, President Xi is on Putin's side in Ukraine. The pair was together enjoying a romantic evening, each other's company in Beijing just a few weeks ago. The fact is, the Pentagon wants a U.S. credit card with no limits and no accountability.
The Department of Defense is the only federal agency that has never, in the history of ever, been audited. But your Inspector General insisted that he be in charge. Do you not see the irony there with respect to Ukraine?
Senator, I'm confident our Inspector General will do a great job in making sure that we remain on track with our responsibilities in Ukraine.
Of course, no one believes that. I don't think even Austin believes that. A blockbuster piece I mentioned briefly last night in Time laid bare the corruption in Ukraine and the lack of accountability for the billions, mostly from America, that is poured into Ukraine. A top presidential advisor to Zelensky telling a reporter named Simon Schuster that people are stealing like there's no tomorrow. Zelensky fired most of his cabinet, including his defense minister earlier this year, you may remember. But he was never forthcoming, was he, about the reasons for that shakeup? More from the Time article. The president was warned in February that corruption had grown rife inside the defense ministry, but he dithered for more than 6 months, giving his allies multiple chances to deal with the problems quietly or explain them away. That Zelensky's a crafty one. No wonder the administration wants no real tracking of the $100 billion we've already sent. Corruption in Ukraine is rampant. And that's terrible for Biden, who knows a thing or two about corruption. As is the new revelations that Ukraine has a full-blown recruitment crisis on its hands. Here's more from the Time investigation. In some branches of the Ukraine military, the shortage of personnel has become even more dire than the deficit in arms and ammunition. One of Zelensky's close aides tells me that even if the U.S. and its allies come through with all the weapons they've pledged, we don't have the men to use them. Okay. Which begs the question, why is Biden doubling down there? To rebuild and reimagine Ukraine's infrastructure, that's why.
This funding will not only rebuild Ukraine's economy and offset the damage wrought by Russia, but it will also help to reimagine it, investing in new industries, infrastructure, and supply chains connected to Europe and to the world. Secure and resilient clean energy, anti-corruption bodies, civil society.
Is this a Green New Zelensky deal? But all of this, the democracy building, it all sounds familiar. The same types of arguments that were made for Iraq and Afghanistan. We've got to stop the Taliban or girls aren't going to be able to attend school. Well, how did that all work out? Democracy building in Iraq? The truth is, they have no defined strategy to save Ukraine or defeat Russia. The summer offensive was supposed to be the answer, but it didn't work. And there's no plan B. They also don't want Joe Biden to face a humiliating defeat on the global stage when he's up for re-election. This massive sum of money that they want now for Ukraine, tied to legitimate aid for Israel, is a cynical and wildly irresponsible political ploy, delaying defeat in Ukraine to secure Biden's victory in 2024. And that's the angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our